into the game. We're talking wood and grain. Charles bring the heat on Southern Yellow Pine. Mascot U.S. species, all is on the line. Gregg with the spruce, keeping knowledge defined. Ashen moderates, drop the facts in the booth. We on the buy, the sell ain't no hidden truth. Economics and trends, we got it all so clear. Lumber Word Podcast, best believe we're here. If you want to make more, get in on the score. Join us every week, you'll be hungry for more. Love it been chingo, whoop made known. Such rain Crossroads, slide, plum ram, no.
Matt is joining while we are going live right here. Matt, you join while we're going live here. Episode 176 of the Lumber Word. How's your sound coming in, Matt?
Perfect. Can you hear me? Hold on.
Yeah, perfect.
How
man.
about that? Is
Perfect.
that better?
That's good. That's good. Greg, how's your microphone, Greg?
2 turntables and a microphone, all good.
Hey, let's talk a little bit. Charles and I were talking before you guys jumped on. So this week, the 23rd, things are slowing down a little bit this week, Monday and Tuesday. Charles had a good point. 8 emails today. He usually gets like 100. Definitely a little bit slower. We had a featured guest in town from our Montreal office this week, so we spent yesterday and today, or Monday and yesterday, doing that.
We had more people in town this week, Ash, than we have in a year.
We did. Had a lumber mill in, 2 lumber mills. One from Europe on Monday. Went downtown, had a nice steak dinner, and then Tuesday morning had a lumber mill in town. And then I hit the Rush concert last night. So for all you all you Canadians, I went and saw the Canadian super band Rush last night at the United Center. So all good there. So just quick update on the market. Man, I'm trying to think of something positive to say, but I don't have anything negative really to say. The market just kind of plodded along up until Friday for us and is kind of slowed down a little bit. We still have an order file we're shipping out of. Mills are in the throes of summer shutdowns still. The mill we actually had in on Tuesday mentioned to us, their production is down significantly year to year, and a large portion of that is stud production in Canada. We're recognizing that in prices. No pullbacks in pricing on offerings that we're seeing out of spruce, but wondering if that's a matter of time. I want to jump over to Charles. Charles, man, Southern Pine, I'm a little confused on it, not sure what's going on. It just feels like it's kind of punk and everybody's just, like you said, waiting for something to happen.
Well, I mean, I think that's why everything's kind of slowed down over the past 4 or 5 days, because there's so much disconnect. And, if your best deals are anything you can put on a rail car go west to east right now. And you still have an issue of car availability, timing, etc. But if you look at the historicals, this is the time where we as a market kind of have a pressure release, right? And the question is how extreme is that release going to be? How long will it last? And what does the other side look like? I mean, Gregg and I talked yesterday, and there's guys that are looking for, forwards and take some risk off, but they're expecting discounts to where prices were, in the current cash market, looking forward, but there's nothing in the market from a fundamental standpoint that says it's going to stay where it's at for an extended period of time. If you buy, you put it in a warehouse, you reload it, you're adding costs, you've got a second freight. So if you're buying $100 under, by the time you use it in September, October, you're already back to today's numbers.
No doubt. And Charles, I just want to add to this, like the hat on backwards and the glasses, that's a good freaking look for you, man.
Appreciate
but
it.
Gregg came in and threw a forward on my desk with all the items and all that. And inquiry. And
words, Ash.
Can't. I'm having a short
Use your words.
And what if I understood right? He wants to pay, below the equivalent of even September SYP futures, right? And
the target numbers were probably representative of where the cash market was in early January, February, before it moved higher.
So does that mean that guys just took double-handed, took orders over the last few months, and now it's coming crunch time to put them on the ground?
I don't think that's from the last few months. Like I said, I think the business that's out there is stuff that was taken, late last year and early this year that never was covered, right? There wasn't a sense of urgency because of the timing on it, and then the market got away, and then it's like, okay, but now it's coming up. It's like, yeah, it's going to ship, right?
Yeah,
So,
no doubt. And then we'll
I mean,
go the
I just want to maybe bring up like one thing. I mean, we got housing starts last week after the show, right? And the housing start number last week for June was a really good number. It was 1,427,000, and it was 19% above the May number. Permits were 1,367,000, pretty much level with what we've been doing all year. And I mean, the start number was disproportionate to multifamily. So year-to-date multifamily is up 17%. Year-to-date single family is down 5.3%, right? So, I mean, housing starts are flat, and we've said this for, like ad nauseum, month after month, is on the demand side, it looks like we're flat demand. People say, well, Greg, then how can prices be up as much as they are? It is a supply side driven market.
Yeah. I had a small little interjection on.
Yeah.
You're going back a second about the guys holding orders and maybe they just have to step in. Well, here's the thing. It's not only that. There's more to it. There's jobs that have been postponed that have now started. And so, you can only push things back so far. These guys have been pushing this stuff back since February. And so a lot of stuff got released here in the last 3-4 weeks, and it's still being released. There's a lot of new stuff that's just shipping. Like our inventories are going down this. So last week, my inventory was up. And really for the last 2 or 3 weeks, I've been kind of accumulating inventory. And Greg, you were doing the opposite. You guys were shedding. You said you were down 40%. Well, now I'm down 30 or 40% from where I was 2 weeks ago. And it's still dropping. I'm selling a lot of wood. So you guys are seeing a different picture than I'm seeing. I'm really busy. I'm selling lumber right now here while we're talking. I've got cars that I wanted to sell this week, and they're going away. And all the other cars that we seem to have wanted to sell in the room, whether they were trader cars or mill cars, they're going away too. The vast majority of our quote unquote potential problems are solved, and it's Thursday morning. So
Matt,
I don't think it's a bad market. I think it's a little bit of a trader's market with a lot of liquidity. You just have to have your mind right. If somebody counters you $10, just say yes and thank you and move on, But if they counter you $30, you can probably fight back a little bit. There's still some needs out there. That's kind of how I'm playing it, and it seems to be working like a charm. There's a lot of. I'm very busy, Greg. Quite busy.
Is that business primarily west of the Mississippi?
We're sending studs down to South Carolina. Charles, you know where Courtenay is? Because I don't.
Where is
Courtenay, South Carolina? Maybe I'm saying it wrong.
How do you spell it?
Courtenay.
Courtenay.
I don't even know where that's at.
Yeah, well, so that's what we're doing.
Because I was looking at so what is that price delivered into South Carolina? And what is that, a 2x4 8-foot or 9-foot?
I don't remember what it was. It was just a couple cars that we sold that went down there that honestly, I can't remember what item it was, but I was a little bit surprised that we're shipping lumber all the way from Oregon to South Carolina. And that seems to be kind of what's happening on a lot of Western lumber is going over to the East. It's going to the upper Midwest. It's going all over right now. It's going to the West. It's just going a lot of places.
So
maybe we're just cheaper. Maybe we're just faster. I don't know.
I guess I'll just, the interesting thing about that is there was a period of time we talked about it 2-3 months ago where, the hemlock, particularly 2x4 8s, but 2x4 9s and 2x6 9s were selling at a big discount into the Southeast and in Midwest and Southeast to spruce, and today, I look at it if I look at the print number, the index, it's straight, that number represents a fairly significant premium to the spruce number, at least on 92 5/8, 2x4, and 104 5/8. I'm not sure, 2x6 104 and 5/8 are still very, very strong in the East. And so, maybe that's the item that it was. That would make, so one of my disconnects in the market is if I look at US species, which, Matt, correct me if I'm wrong, production is relatively flat on that year to date.
Yeah.
It's trading at significant premiums to spruce right now. I mean, like, what would you say? Hem-Fir and Doug-Fir are delivered Chicago today.
I think it's slight premiums. The 2x6 side of it on Hem-Fir and Doug-Fir is probably a real premium because we have the tallies that people want. And a lot of those tallies that people want, they can't find up in Canada right now. A lot of 18s and 20s, which we make tons of, and nobody else, in Canada, they don't really have a lot of them. So if they get them, they're worth a lot more. There's an example. On 2x4, it's the opposite. If you got a bunch of 18s and 20s, they're selling at a discount still. So, if you buy a random car with a bunch of 18s and 20s on it, you're going to save money compared to spruce on 2x4, but you're going to pay more on 2x6. And then on 2x10 and 2x12.
It's interesting just how far the index doesn't represent the market pricing, because if you look at the index, Hem-Fir is arguably $50 over spruce right now on 2x4.
Yeah, I would say $20 over. And if you, I heard some rumblings last week of some mills up in Canada taking like a 630 type level on Chicago basis on 2x4. We have not done that. So I don't, what
are Hem-Fir 2x4s trading Chicago at?
Depends on your tally, but if it's just a good random heavy 16, like 816 tally, probably 665, 675 Chicago, which is kind of where we're selling the spruce at. So it's close.
And West Fraser's 630 Chicago today.
Yeah. So I mean, we're selling 45, a slightly different product. Ours is a plus grade, so it's considered something different. But
yeah, but I'm just like commenting in general is US West species seem to be stronger relative, given that their production is relatively flat, where we've got a significant decrease in production of spruce. Things that make me go, huh?
Hey, real quick, the other thing that we had the announcement after our podcast last week was the Carrier mill curtailment in, is that Alberta or Saskatchewan that one's out of?
It's Saskatchewan. I can talk about that a little bit.
Big River.
I've got a
big river.
It's not till October
in mill. So
yeah.
I mean, I've known, so back in the fall when I negotiated the contract with that mill, they were motivated to do the contract with me because they had a bunch of fire damaged timber base that they wanted to harvest. And so that was, it fit what I was looking for, fit what they planned on producing. And then all of that got eaten up by like the second quarter. So their production already was dropping going into the second quarter. We had to make some adjustments to the contract because they couldn't come up with the volume that I had originally agreed to. And so then, it just kept getting worse. This started back in March. So they kept coming back and going, hey, we're just not getting as much fiber. And now, not only do you not have as much fiber, but you've got all these explosive forest fires up in that area. Just economically, I don't know, because I didn't ask them specifically why they curtailed it, but I noticed that they announced it's indefinite.
Well, they haven't curtailed. The sawmill is going to stop in October,
right?
And the planer.
But they said it's indefinite
next year,
right? So that means they may bring it back online at some point. I'm not sure. It makes nice wood. I've bought. Have you ever bought like their premium 2x4 and 2x6 out of that mill? It's gorgeous. So if they can figure out a log supply situation, I think it really just comes down to logs. Logistically, it's a good mill because it's got short freights and in the Midwest, and they make a lot of that fancy lumber that the upper Midwest likes to consume. So you would think it pencils out if they can get the log supply. But once again, folks, if you don't have logs, you don't have sawmills. It's really that simple. And when the mills have logs,
that's also
they're going to run.
Truck mill. It's a big truck, Matt. It's a big truck mill, I heard, to the Midwest, especially on premium grades, right? So because they can actually truck out of that location because it's one of the closest Western spruce mills to the Midwest, obviously. Yeah, that's sad.
Interesting. Actually, really, I like Carrier. I mean, I've actually wanted to get Reg on the pod here a few times, and I'm still working on that. But like, you know, they're kind of like old school lumber company. They're one of the last sort of independents. Dunkley's like this too, right? Up in Canada, they're not big giant conglomerates. And I've always been a fan of doing businesses with some of these smaller and medium sized sawmills that are still privately owned and run. I think you can just, you know, you can do some interesting things back and forth with mills like that. So my theory anyhow.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy when, you know, I was having a conversation yesterday with somebody, and, you know, when you think about, Russ just put out some, you know, some data and whatnot, you know, I mean, you know, BC shipments to, you know, US are down 50% from 2021 and almost 70% from pre-COVID. You know, that's just, I mean, that's shocking when you think about it. So, Charles, when I think about Southern Pine, I continue to see the wide spreads from the west to the east, right? I mean, $100+ spread on the index, which should be able to make up for some freight, depending where you go, and particularly if you can take by car. And then I look at, I had a couple conversations recently with people about yellow pine futures, and, you know, and the gist of that conversation was, you know, like everybody should be poking at it and you know, trying to, like, you know, see how it works for them, and that's how it'll ultimately, you know, get the better liquidity that we need for it to be a really viable contract. I mean, there is, you know, there's a lot of truss manufacturers that chew up a lot of pine 2x4, and they can't keep anywhere near what their forward risk is in inventory. And, you know, if you're a yellow pine, if you use yellow pine in your truss plant, you should be actively engaged in forward buying using the pine contract.
Yeah, but Greg, we have some of the best. We have some of the best. We have some of the best buyers in the industry. So we're just going to buy our market. And we had a conversation sitting around my deck the other night.
Boy, you got a nice deck, Ash. That's a big deck.
Thanks a lot. I appreciate that.
God, you got a big deck.
And the thing was, when I was at a said company, one of our biggest customers on forward markets had a huge book of forward Southern Pine business, because you know what? They sold out up to a year on truss jobs, and private equity had them, and they loved it, right? Well, this company gets bought by somebody else, and they said, we're not going to continue that because we're a lot better buyers on pine. Like, well, it doesn't matter if you're a better buyer. This is just pure risk management. And it's crazy, right? It's like there was a private equity company with all the wonks in the you know, 3D BB computers all said, yeah, that we love that. That's great. You're taking risk off the table because we don't know where the market's going to be 6 months from now, and we can lock in margin. Somebody else buys them, are like, we're just going to go cowboy, baby, and do it like that. It's crazy, right? So you're right. I mean, people need to figure. I just don't think people know.
You know, it doesn't. You know, I mean, you can be the best buyer. That's great. That just means you're going to pick up. You know, you're going to pick up margin based on your risk profile. But to your point is, you know, whether you're 6 months, 9 months, or 12 months out in terms of what your risk is, you can't physically buy enough, have enough on the ground to cover that. I mean, some of these guys chew up. You know, if they have 3 or 4 weeks worth of pine inventory, that's a lot.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, it's hard. Charles, you know this. It's hard to buy 60, 90 days worth of pine inventory for space and for, like, you know, do you really want it sitting around that long in the weather?
100%. I mean, to your shameless plug of the contract, I mean, at the end of the day, you look at it from a very simple metric of risk management, but it's also an opportunity cost, you know, prevention tool as well, because you can control a lot more volume with a lot less money. And as long as you time it correctly and you have a constant flow of wood, whether that's contracts on the inbound or, you have a certain buying pattern that keeps you fulfilled every 14 to 20 days, it works. And to your point, that was one thing that we talked about when we were in Charlotte, was everybody just pick something, right? One small little piece of what they're doing and put it on the board and lay off some of that risk. But identify it, kind of pigeonhole it so you can understand how the real world works around that contract. And you're right. If we do that as an industry, we should have a lot better liquidity overall.
Think about, let's just spitball here. November pine is 480. January pine, is 480. I mean, if you wanted to buy 100 contracts, you'd probably move that market up from here.
What's the total open interest?
But my point being is that,
let me check, Matt.
If you're in that business, the power it gives you is, okay, now I know what cost I should be using to price my trusses for Q4.
Yeah.
I know it, right? And because I have really great buyers, they're gonna buy extra margin into it, right? Because they're good buyers.
It's that easy. Hey, G-Pop, I like your name.
It's not.
Charles gave that to me.
175 about total open contracts.
Yeah, that should be 17.5. So,
do you think there's too much friction in between the ultimate somebody clicking the button and buying or selling? And sometimes I think there's too many people giving opinions. Like, you can literally just open a futures account up and know what your cost is and do some research and just
pick a spot.
And pick a spot. Like, Charles, do you need somebody to tell you how to buy or sell CME futures?
No.
So
no, because to reiterate what Gregg said, it gives you an opportunity to understand if you're short cash long the board, you know what your cost is going to be, right? And if the market moves in your favor, you pick up margin anyway.
Yeah, I'd say
the rub, I think, is the tangible and intangible. It doesn't seem real and don't understand the concept of how one hand flows into the other is really that and the 47 different opinions.
You know how you figure it out? You figure it out. You click the buy or sell button.
Just do it.
Money.
And figure out, like, there's no better tuition than losing money or making money. Unfortunately, 100%. If you make money on your first trade, you're probably that's a tough one. But
I'll reiterate what I always do. Yep. is like, if you are a hedger, and then this is specifically for an inventory hedger or distributor, it's far better to lose money on your futures than to make money.
So speaking of that, I'm sitting in the office this morning. Very seldom do I beat Gregg in the office because I don't know what you had going on last night, Gregg. I beat you in, and like, you never come in after me.
I figured you were at the Rush concert. I was just glad you made the podcast.
So I'm sitting in here and I hear him on the phone about selling something, and he comes in and he goes, like, what do you think of the board in here, Gregg? The spruce contract.
Well, I've been on record for how many weeks now that 680 to 700 is the target upside. We have had a $40 1,000 rally since the July contract went off the board. So I kind of said, you know what, I think it's going to go there, but I don't know for sure. And I kind of looked and said, the board's gone from a kind of a no premium to a pretty good premium to spruce, $30-$40 premium to spruce, and that's probably some premium to the actual price that we own inventory at. And I said to myself, Self, why not improve your position and sell some futures and hope you lose money? Because we're only going to sell a portion of our position. And that's what I did.
I did the same thing, but I did it for a slightly different reason. I just looked at...
You don't want to lose money on it. Is that your reason?
I always sell because I'm a hedger.
Yeah.
And I agree with you. Hey, there's a premium in it. It's finally, instead of selling a discount, you can sell a premium. So that's point A. I agree. The second thing is that if a jobber came to me and said, "Hey, Beamer, I want you to sell me a bunch of 2x4 spruce for November shipment. I got a job coming up, November, December ship times." And I quoted him the board price, which was like $650, $655. And he said, "Yeah, let's do that." Okay, great. So asking
then
you,
you'd have to buy back your shorts and buy it.
I'm just saying that wouldn't you, as a seasoned veteran, like to have fourth quarter sales at or near the highs of the year? I mean, whether it's studs or dimension. I mean, you guys talked about going out last week. You talked about selling 9-footers at -30, -40, -50 for the fourth quarter. I mean, you can sell it even par right now for the fourth quarter. So, there's another bit of math involved in why I think selling the board at 650 or 655. Yeah, after a big run up, yeah, go ahead and sell some. It was at 90 or 90% RS. The stochastics and the RSI was at 80. I mean, yeah, it's overbought. Go ahead and sell it. That's the time you want to sell it. You don't want to sell it when it's down at 600. But now that we've gotten up in the 650s and higher, I'm like you, Greg. I would love to lose $50,000 or $100,000 on my futures contracts in September, October. I would love that, because then I'd make way more money on my inventory in between now and then. So it's not really.
I mean, I think
it's difficult.
I still think I think we will lose money on these shorts. I think that I have like I said, I have an immediate upside target of 690 to 700, but I'm still in this place where I know, Matt, last year you saw at the high of the year could be as high as $800.
Yeah.
And what I'm seeing is maybe demand's a little bit better than we think out there. Certainly the pipeline's been drained of a lot of lumber. Canadian producers are still not making money at today's price. Everybody that's flipped over to Southern Yellow Pine, has done that already. So, I mean, maybe there'll be another move towards Southern Pine in the, for 2027 when people take a look at it. Right. But so, yeah.
I mean, we might go to 800, but I'm thinking that we probably won't at this point. If we could hit 700, I'd be thrilled. I mean, I think it's still in the cards. You never really know what's going to happen in August and September in a given year. There's always weather. You get hurricanes, you get fire season, you get you get unexpected things that happen. But if you just look at, a yearly chart and graph type thing on a 30-year basis, you're probably 700 would be like your very, very best expectation for this year, and 800 just out the window. I highly doubt, without some kind of a major unexpected unknown that none of us could plan for, it just doesn't seem like that's in the cards for this year. The general rule of what you're saying, though, is correct. We just have less production and about the same amount of demand as last year, maybe a little bit better. I mean, I think the demand is actually surprising some of the guys that I sell to, because they keep coming in and buying more trucks and cars. And the fact that they're in all the time, buying all the time, tells me, and a couple of them admitted, hey, we're busier than we expected to be. So
that's been kind of a continuing statement for sure. Something else to throw in the mix is, Canadian, the CVD AD drops 10%. It's going to be somewhere in October. There's the best estimate right now. And so if you're going to pay 10% less in the several weeks leading up into that, are you going to ship more lumber or less lumber into the market?
Less.
There you go. So, I mean, depending on when we know that final day, that could have, like a really short-term impact on things.
Yeah, don't forget the potential duty coming on hockey sticks too, going forward.
That
I think alcohol prices are about to just tumble. I'm shorting alcohol prices. Hey, Charles,
I did
you were talking about yellow pine 2x6 getting a little bit toppy. I mean, has that come to fruition? Are they wheeling and dealing on it, or did they find another leg? Like what's going on with 2x6 yellow pine?
No, it's coming up for air. Let's just say that there's been a pressure release.
Need deeper insights into wood products prices? At Fast Markets, we track over 1,600 price items to help you understand the narrative behind the data and market trends. Our team of experts brings years of institutional history to every price assessment and market report we deliver. From harvesting to housing, we cover every link in the supply chain to provide a complete picture of market dynamics. Use our forecasts and analysis to stress test your strategy and stay ahead of volatility in these critical markets. Stay informed and make better business decisions with Fast Markets. Go to fastmarkets.com/lumbertalk to learn more.
Well, that's good.
Quite a bit, actually.
Yes. So,
but the thing
He's
is,
smiling like a Cheshire cat over there. Look at that.
So, I mean,
got
so Charles, I mean,
47 trucks heading to his yard right now. Oh, I don't know. Seems a little better.
It's so you're saying it's squishy? I mean, is it just people are looking?
Oh no, I mean you're getting some considerable discounts on 8 through 16, 18s and 20s, 18s and longer still incredibly hard to source.
Yeah.
There was some deals done on 10s and 12s this week and a little bit late last week. 14s came off pretty heavy because 14s usually command a premium because of log yield, right? And the fact that a lot of your big truss guys that use linear saws, 14 foot is the best yield. So 14s and 4 and 6 inch are usually in pretty hot demand. But from what I'm hearing, it's that's not the case.
Well, 3 or 4 weeks ago, spruce 14s 2x4 were delivering in the like middle Atlantic for less than pine, and we saw some switching over to that this week. My sense is that's flipped back.
100%.
Hey Charles, what are 2x6, 104 and 5A Southern Pine solids now like delivered up into the Midwest?
$700.
Because spruce are 800 to 850 depending upon what you're buying.
You're probably, depending on where you're talking about, Ohio, Indiana, Northern Kentucky, you're $725 to $750.
And what's Hem-Fir 2x6 9s, Matt, delivered Chicago?
We haven't had very much Hem-Fir recently. I'd say probably in the 725 to 745 range, just off the top of my head.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you had it there, you could sell a lot of that into the East Coast because you're going to be delivering $50 to $80 under spruce, but you don't seeing much 2x6 Hem-Fir right now.
We've had either WW or Doug Fir or ESLP. We had a little bit of Canadian spruce, but most of the Canadian spruce stays up in Canada. It's just a small mill. So if we can keep it local that's the Fort St. James mill, right?
What are 2x6, 104 and 5/8 number 2 Doug Fir delivered Chicago today?
That's a good question. Hold on, standby caller. Let's have a look here.
Because I heard you guys make a little bit of that.
We do. We make a few. Doug Fir 9 foot number 2, about 675 ish. So there you go.
So that's 100. Over at least $100, $1,000 below spruce right now. So yeah, that would make sense that you're going to be getting that business into the Southeast. I think anybody that needs 2x6 9 should be buying Doug Fir into the Southeast.
I'm sorry, that was 2 before 9 foot. 2x6 9 foot is 745.
745.
Yeah.
So you're still probably
delivered
$50 under because everything that we're selling is starts with an 8.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
Our phones are open.
Yeah,
this is why people like the podcast for this kind of stuff. I think this is the nuanced stuff. We're in the weeds. I mean, the big financial guys are like, yeah, okay. Can you give me a little bit more big picture stuff? But the traders out there love this stuff.
I was talking to somebody yesterday that was asking about the podcast that did a quick interview. Somebody was asking
number one
about
podcast in the industry. That's what they were asking about.
So one of the cool things about it that I told him is, first of all of us 4 that do it, it's great. And Matt, I was talking, they're like, give me a for instance of one thing that comes to mind that's pretty cool. We won't say his name or whatever, but there's a guy in the Midwest that listens to the podcast that, he's a good dude and he gives me orders because he wants to support us.
Yeah, that's nice.
And, Matt sent me something.
And
the other day,
we welcome all of those people that call up and say, "Hey, I love your podcast. What can I buy from you?"
Well,
those calls, I love
Here's
those
the POs.
calls.
100%.
I love those calls.
Take my orders.
my point.
And you know what? Because you make that call, we're probably going to give you at least a friendly 5.
Well, no, so my point is, I'm like, hey, are you talking? I sent something to Matt because he had an offering in Chicago. I'm like, are you talking to this guy? And Matt, this is when you go in your computer and look and see if you're talking to him, right? And
Yeah.
he's like, no. He's like, no. I'm like, here's his freaking name. Give him a call, dude. He'd love to talk to you because with all the shit, when I walked through his yard, I saw like some of your stuff, but some just you're probably not.
He's got a little bit of everything.
You can sell this guy a bunch of stuff. He's great.
Yeah,
great feedback, right? And Charles, same. Like I try to push guys toward you. You try to push people toward me. So like anybody listening to the podcast between Southern Pine, U.S. species, Western and Eastern spruce, forward pricing, in Southern Pine. I mean, hey, this is a plug for us. If you don't want to talk to a frickin' 25-year-old kid that doesn't know anything in the industry, which suit will someday, and just
no
wants
disrespect to those kids,
it's just, it's just dialing for dollars, and it's just dialing for dollars after he got hired as a waiter because there were some dudes from one of the groups out to dinner and thought he'd be a good trader, which is fine. People do that. Like, the 4 of us here probably have more market knowledge to do whatever you need to do than like 100 combined people in the industry.
You got to stop, dude. I'm going to have to jump off the pot here. This is terrible.
But
you
anyway,
sound
that
like
was
Stephen A. Smith, man. You're like, I'm the best. Hey, anyhow, I do want to say one thing for the young guys. I was that young guy. At one point, I remember I was 27. I started in this business, and I would call guys up and go, I don't know anything, but I'll work hard. And like, okay, keep going.
Yeah. No. I look at. I mean, I was that guy too. But you and I, Matt, like, we got a different thing. We basically had parents in the industry. Your dad, right? So
yeah, but my dad didn't help me, dude. That's the funniest story of all time. My dad would talk like Jesus in parables. He'd talk about like old bulls and young bulls, and he would never give me actually any hard advice. He would just tell me these stupid ass stories that made no sense. And I just go, come on, I need help. He's like, well, let me tell you about the old bulls and the young bulls. I'm like, well, what are you talking about?
Don't they all make sense to you now?
Yes,
though?
they do.
Don't they all make sense to you now?
After 32 years, I finally figured it out.
So he did help you. Like it was just delayed. But
you just
but
didn't know it.
My point to the guy too, and plus on the pod, I told, and Gregg talked to a guy the other day that called him asking about hiring people. And, the guy told him, I don't have time to train people. And it's very obvious from our industry, when you talk to some people on the phone, they're not getting trained.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's downright embarrassing because they're just trying to ring up orders, right? And
yeah, I mean, the really good trading companies, they do training first, right? That's one of the features of the well-established trading companies. They do that. Now, if you're just hiring people and telling them to get on the phone, like there's no red book anymore. So those guys are going to have to use, Google search or whatever. I wouldn't advise that. That's not the way to do it. People need some basic lumber knowledge. I remember when I was a rookie, one of the first things somebody did was take me out to a job site and explain to me what all this different lumber is used for. And I didn't know. I mean, yeah, now I learned. Okay, I saw a house, how they build it, and what's a rafter, and what's plate stock, and what are studs. And like it all started to click and make sense. So practical knowledge is there's 2 kinds of knowledge that are beneficial in this business if you want to be a trader in a commodity. One of them is practical knowledge, like what the use and consumption is of certain items and why they're made and how they're used, where they go. The other one is the economic side that Gregg and Ashley and Charles and myself talk about all the time in these sort of figurative ideas about forward pricing and risk management and all this other stuff. So there's those 2 things together make a good trader, right? And then you add time to that equation, you become a really good trader. So, but the starting point is practical knowledge. You've got to know your products. You got to know why things go where and for what reason, and who's going to buy them and who's not going to buy them. Otherwise, you're wasting your time. You're just throwing dirt against the wall.
Yeah, Charles, I keep, Charles, you're an old soul, so I keep forgetting you're a young buck. I mean, you had to learn all this from pure just frickin' falling forward into it.
I mean, that's the best. Honestly, I mean, you can have all the training in the world. The practical knowledge part is what I really focused on because, I mean, I felt like I could sell anything to anybody before I started IFB. Honestly, if I had a laptop and a phone, I can make money.
And a pickup truck.
Understanding where.
And a pickup truck.
You didn't really have a mentor, did you, Charles?
No.
I mean, you're kind of a really one in a million type dude in this business. There's not a lot of guys that just jump in at both feet and figure it out and then build something like you have. That's
It's not easy. It's been fun. Don't get me wrong.
It is fun.
Learned a lot about life.
Well, this is actually a really fun and rewarding business for the people that are in it. Now, if you go out into the cocktail party and then somebody asks you, what do you do for a living? Oh, I'm in the lumber business. They just turn around and walk away. You know, it's like, yeah, it's pretty boring. Like,
except during COVID, everybody wanted to talk about it during COVID. Hey, is there a shortage of lumber? Is there a shortage of lumber? Man, hey, or hey, I want to do something. Can you help me?
Yeah. This is
no shortage of lumber. Everybody gets as much as they want. They just have to pay for it. And no, I'm sorry, I can't help you. I can't even help myself.
Yeah.
But I would say Ashley's like going, so what'd you tell the guy? I go, well, he seemed like a really nice guy, but we probably wouldn't rehire him.
With that said, Matt, just back to the other thing too is like I told the guy, even though you and I could be competition sometimes, we don't care.
Well, there's good competition and bad competition. You got to know the difference.
Yeah, but my point was between the four of us here, we can cover every freaking need and species and thing that you do there, and probably either make you money or save you money in the long run. That's
nice thought.
That's my advertisement. That's my advertisement for ourselves. Greg, I want to just ask you too. What have you been seeing in the mills you've been talking to in the East? Because I've got like offerings today from some of the Eastern mills, Matt, with more number 3 that I haven't seen in a while, and some studs showing up. But what are you seeing out there?
I'm seeing because a lot of mills are curtailed this week, next week, and into the first week in August. There's a lot less pressure on mills. I also think that that's leading to, a slower pace because there's not a lot of energy at the mill level to sell because they don't have any pressure. And on the same token, because there's not a lot of offerings, the customers have kind of backed up. I mean, we're picking off, the odd thing here or there that, that fills out what we need. But, as you and I talked this morning, Ash, I mean, we've got some specials out on, things where we're trying to right size certain inventories and, certain places. Hey, we have excess of this item. Let's sell that. In this item, we have excess of this item. Let's sell that. And then there's a lot of things that we're really still tight on. 2x4, 92 and 5/8 and trims. We're still really tight on those. I mean, interestingly, 2x6, which we had a big position in, we're relatively light, except for, we got a bunch of 14s in Chicago that we want to sell, kind of thing. MSR, we've got a nice position on that, and we're gonna sell some of that today.
Now I got to go to the rest of the guys and ask them what they've got.
Somebody out there in the Northeast, Mid-Atlantic, and even like farther west on some 2x12, 12-foot. We're looking for a guy that could use 4 or 5 trucks of 2x12, 12-foot European spruce.
What was it again?
Price to sell.
What width?
2x12, 12.
Oh, that should be easy.
You'd think so. I mean, the 16s went the 16s went no problem. We mixed on 10s and 14s.
It's premium, right?
We got a bunch of 12s.
It's premium. Where's it sitting? I might be able to
sitting in North Billerica, Massachusetts.
Okay, we'll talk after.
Matt, we finally sold our 2 trucks of finger joint studs that were sitting down in Fort Worth.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you that.
Market's topped out. Market's topped out.
And now I've gotten inquiry for like 7 people have called me back. Dude, do you still have those?
Did you send a claim form?
No, it was sold on a no. It was
no claim basis. No claim.
The guy that bought the guy that bought them said that I am selling them to somebody that you will never get them back.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
So,
I mean,
hey,
and,
are we going to do this?
$200 below the market.
Are we
Go
doing
ahead, Matt.
this? Are we gonna shake our rattle can and talk about our little skeletons in
Yeah,
the closet that we want to get rid of?
I mean, I started it.
Go
Let's
for
go. Go ahead.
The only thing I want to sell in volume is 2 before 14s, 2 and better spruce and 1650 spruce that I have on the ground down in Texas. I mean, somebody wants to be my buddy on that, I'll sell you, 8 or 10 trucks of those. It's just the one item that I have more of than anything else. I mean, I have an unending appetite 14? For 16s, 18s, and 20. Yep, 2 before 14s, number 2, and 1650 spruce on the ground. I'm selling them at the number 3 price. I'm shipping them on number 3 orders. So I know they're priced right. I just need more eyes on the ball. So that's the one thing. To go further, 16s, 18s, and 20s are still really hard to get, and I can't keep them in inventory for more than a week. They just get chewed up. 12s are actually surprisingly good. 8s and 10s are always a problem, but I always solve the problem by getting rid of them to a remanner or, some industrial guy that just consumes them. So I don't really even think about 8s and 10s anymore. I just try not to buy them. That's kind of the trick now.
Now, what's 12-foot number 3 trading at in Texas right now?
Roughly 600 delivered, could just pick a spot.
I have a few trucks of no grade stamp.
Yeah.
That I could probably sell you at a discount to that.
Yeah, I've heard about that. I think I've lost a few orders to you, but again, I don't really care. You
haven't lost them to us yet because we haven't sold them there, but,
all right,
but we want to.
I'll see if I can help you over the fence. How many are you talking about?
There's just a couple trucks left. That's it.
No problem.
Yeah, not a lot. Not a lot.
Charles,
that thing is just a good time of year to kind of clean up the odds and ends. Charles never.
This is like when I used to be at my wife's. This is like when I used to be at my wife's grandma or my wife's grandmother's farm, and 20 years ago, and they'd have Swap Shop on the radio, on the AM radio in the morning, where everybody was calling and telling what they had to sell. I've got a 1968 Buick LeSabre in my garage for $400. Charles, what do you got?
I mean, we're always fishing for trying to move volume on a forward basis and studs. I mean, it just is what it is, and continue to do it. Right now, there's people that want breaks, but I mean, we don't have a lot of odds and ends and weird stuff that we need to get rid of. I got a couple trucks of pine plate in Florida that I'd like to move, but nothing of huge concern.
You're in good shape.
Try to stay pretty clean.
I mean, hey, right on. I think if anybody's interested in listening to a earnings call, I think Blue Links either is having their call today on their. I'd be interesting to see what that comes out, because I would imagine they've been hitting it pretty hard with all this distribution going on.
You think they're making good money?
Don't know. That's why I want to listen to it.
I'm kind of curious because I've dealt with a lot of different Blue Links companies and locations over the years, and still friends with several of them. And every time I get in a plane and travel, I drive past a Blue Links yard somewhere. And from what I've observed over the last several years, some of the Blue Links locations really clamp down on their inventory, like in terms of just they have a big yard with 10 or 12 acres and they only have like 2 acres worth of lumber. They might have a bunch of other stuff in there, like engineered or siding or something else, but it doesn't seem like those types of yards are real focused on sticks. But then I go to a different place in a different location and they're full of lumber. They've got VMIs, they've got lumber stacked up all over the place. So I don't think it's uniform through the Blue Links system as to how each yard operates. It's not like Boise Cascade or, some of these other Weyerhaeuser yards where they're just carry a bunch of everything all the time, and it's uniform pretty much throughout the whole system. I've noticed that with Blue Links, and I don't know why. And it's not my business, but I have observed that.
Do Weyerhaeuser yards actually carry DC stuff and buy on the open market?
Pardon me?
Do Weyerhaeuser distribution,
Weyerhaeuser?
They actually? Yeah. The 7 or 8 they're on the east side, or eastern part of the U.S.?
Yeah, no, they can, and they do. I mean, from what I know. But yeah sure. I think a lot of those companies have also programs. I mean, one of the things that distribution has done and retail has done in the last several years is switch over to a VMI or contract model on the supply side, and sometimes it's hard to find items like premium. It could be finger joints. It could be some things that are sort of specialty items, but sometimes it's just sticks. like just regular old gut ball 2x4 and 2x6 tune better. So the volume of open market business today is a lot less than it was 10 or 15 years ago, but then the volume of open market lumber being offered is less too, right? There's fewer mills to talk to, and there's a lot of mills have gone away from the laissez-faire capitalism business model to sell to the highest bidder to now having half their production sold already before it's made.
Well, Matt, the perfect example. I mean, this is one thing, like what we do, Charles, Matt, ourselves, we take large positions and pay for it and put it on the ground, right? Mills love that. Little Bird told me this week that some of the big trading houses are actually hiring people to go out and interview some of these mills why they won't sell them.
Interesting.
Or why they're having a harder time selling them. They're actually going out and having a consultant call mills and say, hey, why won't you sell, people that try to back and flip stuff. And I mean, I have my own reason for it because they want people to buy what they have and put it on the ground and distribute and change something that they can do themselves, right? I'm not saying they are doing it or aren't.
I look at it a little differently. I mean, what are you offering to the sawmill?
Good point. Yeah.
I mean, flip it around. Yeah. What makes you different? Why should they want to sell you? What makes you different? And here's a good lesson in young traders. Hey, what makes you different than the other young traders sitting next to you? Why would a mill want to sell you? What do you bring to them? Right. So flip the script, find a reason that you're valuable to a sawmill, and then go keep doing more of that, and then build your career that way. If you're always thinking about what can I do to, ingratiate myself with a sawmill, you're going to start thinking like they do, and you'll understand their problems. And maybe you'll come up with solutions for their problems that are different than what they know, that you can now tie into their business, and they'll see you as an asset, as a reason I want to sell this guy because he does this and he does it well. Just call Beamer, just call Ashley, just call Charles. Charles has got a chop saw, sell him those 14s. There's going to be, if you do that, I would never go to a sawmill and go, why aren't you selling me? I would go to a sawmill and go, here's why you want to sell me. This is what we have to offer you, Mr. Sawmill. We can do this, this, and this, or I can do this, this, and this. And then, make the case that way.
I'm trying to think who told me. Somebody mentioned you last week to me. Like, Matt goes down to Texas like 4 times a year and goes in and out of all his customers' yards and visits distribution. So he literally knows all the time what they're doing. Right. And that's a lot of people don't do that. I mean, and it takes a lot of time it takes a lot of time away from they always say you look at days away from home and you want less of those, especially when you have kids and all that.
Yeah.
And you put your time in doing that, man.
I mean, that goes back to when I was a young trader. I wanted to visit all of my sawmills and all my customers. That was my goal from the age of 27 on. And the reason why is real simple. I just wanted to know what I was dealing with. It goes back to the practical knowledge. I wanted to know, like, hey, what are the limitations of this yard? Like I used to have a customer in Denver. They don't exist anymore, but this guy had the smallest yard in Denver. He was in downtown Denver, right next to where they built Coors Field. And at the time, this is 30 years ago, it was a really bad part of town, industrial part of town. And he had about 1.5 acres, 2 acres maybe. So, I realized right then and there, I can't sell this guy car after car after car. He's not big like some of these other guys I was selling in Denver all the time. So the only way I could sell the guy was to put some wood on the ground and ship him trucks. And once I figured that out, he became my friend. We did a lot of business, right? Like I stopped offering things he didn't want to buy. He couldn't buy cars. He needed trucks. So I started supplying him trucks. Well, I wouldn't have known that if I hadn't visited him. And then actually visiting and meeting the guy, I got to see what he looked like and how he acted and what the yard temperature was. And, kind of, you kind of learn what your culture is of the people you're dealing with and the companies that you're dealing with. Now, this is a different era. Today, a lot of these companies are owned by other big companies or private equity.
Yeah.
So they become part of a conglomerate. And a lot of those owner-operator type places are gone. But yeah, it is good to know what your customer, you can find this out either from the buyer or sometimes the yard guys. There might be a shipping manager that tells you a story about this or that, or a guy that deals with the railroad locally all the time, and maybe you can help them free up some of their rail. Like our customers get pinged by the railroad. We complain about the railroad, so do they. You know, how many times have you ever visited a customer and have them go, "Oh yeah, we can't get our cars in. The UP's just sitting on them for 7 days." You know, they stack them up in some concentration yard, right?
Oh yeah. Dude, hang on. That just hit a nerve on me. I gotta go.
You get it though. Like these are things you learn from visiting. And then, you know, I happen to like Texas. I happen to like Colorado. I happen to like New Mexico, Arizona, all these places I've gone to over the years. Minnesota, I used to do a lot of business up in Minnesota, Wisconsin. I've driven those two states several times. They're beautiful. Like Wisconsin looks like Oregon without mountains. It's gorgeous. It's a big green state with lots of dairy and a lot of water, you know, tons of big rivers. I would have known if I hadn't gotten an airplane and drove around the whole state for 5 days, you know, but it's fun. It can be fun. It can be a drag if you want it to be, but it can also be really entertaining and interesting. You learn something about this country too, about different cultures where you visit. So I guess I need to go down to South Carolina, Charles, because I never been there, and I heard you got good barbecue. So I think
good taxes, everything, man.
Yeah.
Charleston, good restaurants. Yeah,
It's not bad.
Not bad.
But don't move here. We don't want anybody to
Hey guys, I got a 1 o'clock. I gotta bounce.
See ya.
Yeah,
all right, boys.
Great.
It was
as
real.
always, good to be with you, boys.
It was great.
Have
Thanks.
a good day.
Bye.
All right, guys.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of The Lumber Word. The Lumber Word podcast is dedicated to engaging conversations about the lumber industry, including trading ideas, market trends, and evaluations of overvalued and undervalued assets. We wish to emphasize that the discussions and opinions expressed in this podcast are purely for informational and entertainment purposes. They should not be considered as financial or investment advice. We encourage our listeners to make their own financial decisions, taking into account their unique circumstances and financial goals, and to seek professional financial advice if necessary.